Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Careers, Internships, and Your Future session with the Faculty of Information and Media Studies. My name is Braden. I'm the Career Services Officer in the Faculty of Information and Media Studies, and I graduated from Western ages ago. I thought I would share a little bit about my journey just so you have a better idea of why I'm here. So, before I started at Western, I moved to Australia with my best buddy, Josh, because I had no idea what I wanted to do. Now, this isn't what I'm advocating for you to do. Don't worry, parents, but it's an important part of my story. When I came back, I started my degree while I was bartending at Jack Astor's. I was also playing baseball. When I was younger, I played baseball for Team Canada, but at this point, I was starting to see that dream slip away. It was also at the point that I met my girlfriend, who was and is really smart. She's so smart that she started pushing me to think a bit more about what it was that I actually was studying, and it had me thinking about my future. It turns out that the advice was really valuable as I started performing better in my courses. And then I graduated with an average high enough to have a choice of the master's program. And I was offered 4 different jobs within the first 6 months of graduating, one of which was in digital marketing. I went on to start my own company and I did a TED Talk. Oh, yeah. And I ended up marrying my girlfriend, just in case you were curious. My point here is that we all have our own path through education. And trying to figure out what this path is, well, it's really tough. When looking at this big, messy picture in front of you, it can seem intimidating. But I hope by the end of this talk, you come away with knowing you have tons of support here for you in FIMS. So I work with the rest of the team. We have an integrated unit. All the academic counselors and I work together on helping students out in FIMS. What I specifically do is I help the students figure out what it is they want to do and how we can build a way to get there together. So when do we get started with this whole process? How about right now? All right, I want to start out by getting you to think a bit more broadly about what media means to you. Now, don't look at mom and dad for the answers because they might be thinking about Peter Mansbridge or the Disney Sunday movie hour on ABC or rewinding their favorite mixtape to listen to that Boys to Men song one more time on their Sony Walkman Sport. All right, all jokes aside, this is a broad question and will likely take on a different meaning for each of you as it does for our current students and alumni network. When we talk about media, we aren't just talking about the tools that we use like television, radio, print, phones, or social media, but we're going deeper and looking at how media influences our behaviors. When students come to me, we think about what big problems they want to solve in industry, and we can use these skills to move forward. But don't take my word for it. Let's take a look at what some of our alumni are doing. But let's look at this and think about, where will you go? How does TV sound? Maybe in front of the camera, like Liz Trenier, television personality on eTalk, or behind the camera, like Mel Peterson, production assistant at Sony Pictures Entertainment. We have many alumni working in digital marketing, social media, content generation, online community managers like Alexandra McCann, digital specialist at Google. Or we have experienced designers like Eugene Gutierrez, Director of Experience Design Strategy at Cineplex. Maybe your interest is more in the creative writing space and you're looking to join the ranks in journalism like Jordan Pearson, Senior Editor at Vice Media. Or maybe you want to get into something a little more technical like front-end website development like Francine Navarro, Senior Front-End Developer at Shopify. Across all these industries, you'll find thousands of FIMS alumni working in roles that you're interested in or roles that you may have never even heard of. If this sounds exciting, interesting, amazing, or maybe even a bit scary, don't worry. That is exactly why I'm here with the rest of the team to help you out. Let's just look a little bit closer at a few of our alumni. I want to tell a bit of a story about a couple of them so you understand a bit more of what they're doing. So on the right here, we have Laura B. an account executive at North Strategic, and she's currently the lead communications coordinator with Cadillac Fairview. So the company that owns all of the malls that you see around Ontario, Canada, that sort of thing. She's obviously been pretty busy over the last few months during the pandemic, pivoting and figuring out new things. And I had the chance to catch up with her the other day, actually on the day that she got promoted into this role. And she was telling me the biggest thing she gained from FIMS was the critical thinking element that she was able to put into practice during an internship placement through an agency in London. Her entire experience in FIMS helped her develop her love for agency work. She started in a smaller agency, which led to more opportunities for development, and then eventually moved to North Strategic, where she got the client Cadillac Fairview. On the left side there, we have Brian. I've had the pleasure, or personal pleasure, I should say, of working directly with Hashtag Paid when I was a marketing manager. Hashtag Paid is an influencer agency in Toronto that works across the nation helping brands connect directly through an influencer's audience in genuine and authentic ways. For the students that are watching, I'll give you a minute to explain to your parents what TikTok influencers are. Okay, I go teasing those parents again. But in all seriousness, you can see Brian here is the co-founder and CEO of this incredibly successful agency. Finally, I had the chance to catch up with Laura Muirhead, another extremely successful alum and current director of digital strategy at National Public Relations. She was telling me the other day that her experiences at Western, like working at the alumni call center, at the Great Hall Catering, and her hands-on plus critical thinking experience in FIMS helped her build her way to Edelman, a larger PR firm. From there, she asked lots of questions. She also asked me to emphasize that again, that she asked a lot of questions. It's really important in this line of work. From there, she jumped right into working on media monitoring, a process where you spend time listening to social channels for feedback. And she worked with major retailers like McDonald's, Porsche, Kudo, and was at the leading edge of building online communities, a widely accepted practice within industry now. What she emphasized was that FIMS allowed her to not only focus on hands-on elements, but understand the digital culture and the economy behind it. She attributes this learning experience to her being ahead of her peers on trends in industry. I found this story really important as we look at the future of work. I'm sure many of you have heard stats about how jobs are changing and that many jobs will be available to you, but they haven't even been created yet. Well, these three stories I just shared show how FIMS is doing a really good job at making sure students have the skills to be ready for work, but also the agility to be ready for the future too. So when we think about the future, my colleagues across Western and I really focus on the problems that students want to solve over the titles they will get, because the titles themselves are changing all the time. What this reframe does is it allows us to figure out what they need to learn, what skills they will need to develop, and it allows us to put an emphasis on lifelong learning to help solve these problems as they change over time. You'll hear a lot of people talk about careers over the next few months and how that connects to the education you're pursuing. But it's really important to also think about how you will find meaning in the work that you will do. Too many people right now are out there working in jobs that they're not deriving meaning from. And this is why we focus on this. All right, so let's look at how this works in industry or in practice for a FIMS student. We're helping students create in-demand skills for technical production and to emotional intelligence. We have a dedicated resource within FIMS to stay on top of emerging roles and trends like user experience, online community management, or market research and marketing specialists. If you don't know what these titles mean right now, don't worry too much about that. They are emerging roles. But what's important to take away from this is that these three jobs have been listed in the top 10 jobs expected in the next 10 years, according to Business Insider magazine. We also focus on, and I'm just going to skip past this and come back in a second, but we focus on technology that can be used to complement the human workforce and not simply just to disrupt it. There's a bit of a false dichotomy in that conversation out there right now, and not everything is going to disrupt. We have to learn how to work with the technology. Finally, we are staying on top of the skills that will help you navigate your career. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into this one. A couple years ago, RBC put together a report called Humans Wanted. They put a ton of resources and finances into this report. What this report focuses on is how Canadian youth can thrive in the age of disruption. The report is incredibly long, and I won't assign this as a reading for homework. But if you're looking to dig into it a bit more, the link is down there in the bottom right corner or over there uh, in the chat. I'll put it in just a second. Now, there's a couple of really important aspects in this report that I want to highlight. First, they put a lot of emphasis on digital fluency. It's important that we note that digital fluency doesn't necessarily mean programming, as you can see here. It also doesn't mean that you have to be a scientist or a mathematician. What they're talking about in this is that we need to have an understanding of the digital space. Interesting, the leading skills for the future can include those, but there's much more emphasis on things like active listening, speaking, critical thinking, comprehension, social perceptiveness. So this is emotional intelligence that's baked into the curriculum that you're learning in high school right now. And it's also in a lot of curriculum and courses that we teach in FIMS. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more in detail about how we add these skills into your development FIMS specifically. You're going to get asked once you start, how does your degree get you the job that you want? Or how does my degree prepare me? A way to answer that is by looking at the unique courses that will help you get there. In FIMS, we provide an in-depth approach to studying all aspects of media. Professors will teach you how to research, analyze, and critique the media you see. If you're interested in making media and learning the practical skills to create your own work, we teach that too. As you know from Susan's session, we teach some of the practical skills too. You might have the choice of several of these options on this screen and more. A really cool course that is relevant to the influencer movement and current media is mobile journalism. This course allows students to learn journalistic storytelling through video journalism and producing content through smartphones and low-cost apps. There are a lot of good and bad examples of how to do this right now on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, and so on. You could take a complementary course, and you should take a complementary course to that, like media and audiences, as this will focus on theoretical readings and debates that will emphasize the nature and definition of the audience. It will give you a deeper understanding of how to craft content and the function of the audience for the media industry and culture. This course really helps you identify the why of your audience. This was one of Laura Muirhead's favorites, the alumni that I mentioned previously. Finally, a really popular course is Planet Google, Big Data and Information Society. This course explores how search engines harvest big data from users and exploit patterns of online behavior for marketing, government, and corporate intelligence. There's been a ton of examples about this in the media over the last 6 months and more that I'm sure you're familiar with. Oops, just got to go further. Another way that we put all of this into practice is through our internship program. This program is offered to eligible third and fourth year students and is delivered in a 1-term, 4-month experience. Although the actual experience doesn't start until later, we can get started working on our way to this opportunity as soon as you start in the faculty. Typically, we start with having a chat. In these chats, I like to learn more about what you like, what you don't, what experiences you have, what experiences you would like to have, and so on. We can have a look at what is going on within the community, within the university, or maybe even what you're going to do over the summer break and how it can help you down the road. From there, we will start to discover some of those challenges that we were talking about before, those ones that you want to work on, and think about ways how we can continue to develop your skills through coursework, through extracurricular activities like the Western Gazette, the largest student run newspaper in Canada, like student council, sports that you play, or jobs that you can get. When we get to your third year, we work with you on getting ready to apply and interview with our partner companies. We do a lot of this work in house through the whole process of the internship program, but we also collaborate with Western's Careers and Experience team, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. The academic components of this course is really reflective based, as we have you intentionally think about how you're connecting your theoretical learning to the practice of your internship. This will help you understand how to position yourself and your education for future interviews. The experiences our students are able to acquire are with partner organizations like Rogers, TIFF, MLSC, The Arcane, Nuts for Cheese, Gap PR, and more. This is always changing in terms of what's popular and what's available each term, but we tend to have some really strong partnerships out there available for our students. We also have great relationships with our alumni and are constantly running events like our Career Boot Camp, which happened yesterday, and I'll explain a bit more in a second, or the Career Conference that features, well, let's go over to the next slide and talk about it. The Career Conference is an exciting event that we hold annually in January. This event features the alumni working in industry, and they come back to share their stories, give students tips and tricks on how to get into different industries, and to help build out their networks. This event is focused on fourth and third year students as they get ready to launch their career. Meanwhile, boot camp, which I referenced, focuses more on students in their first and second year. But the main takeaway is that we have programming designed no matter where you are in that path. With FIMS, you do have the advantage of having supports like myself and the rest of the team right in the faculty to help you with your career journey. But we also work closely with Western Careers and Experience. This central team helps all faculties at the university and students by working on resumes, cover letters, mock interviews. They run workshops to help you with networking, how to build your LinkedIn profile. They also hold recruitment fairs like the one we just had with Microsoft. We work collaboratively to ensure students have everything that they need. Okay, so there are a lot of crazy numbers thrown around out there, like this one. Regardless if you know exactly what you want to do, if you have no idea, or if you think you do but you still aren't really sure, we are working with many students who are in a similar situation. And there are so many tools out there that we can use to give you the upper hand when building your path through academics and job readiness. We also know that 86% of students are making careers one of, if not the top reason to pick Western University. This is why we've invested so much time and effort into career resources directly here in the faculty. We know how important it is to you, and along with our amazing lineup of classes, we want to give you the support you need, regardless of what career path you're on.